With the current nerfs, it brings back into the light one of the old classic decks. And by classic, I mean the game hasn't been out that long, but this was one of the original really good decks. With the addition of She-Hulk when that came out, this is Death Arrow. Some people call it Bayro, but now with She-Hulk, you know, it could be whatever name you want it to be. But this deck has the best card in the game, Arrow, which is just really, really strong on a final turn, or on turn 5 even. But being able to take over 2 lanes and then move your opponent's cards off of it is really, really good, because they just can't do anything to play around it unless they have like a Doctor Doom or something else that can, or even like an Armzol, I guess, can still play around it slightly. But this card has a reputation of just crushing other decks. One thing with this deck, when you play out Wave on a final turn, you have the option of playing Arrow plus Death and or She-Hulk. So if you end up killing 4 units and you play only Wave on turn 5, you can play Arrow, She-Hulk, and Death, and your opponent can only play 1 card, which makes this very, very strong, because it's very easy to pull your opponent's cards to 1 location and then get enough power in the other 2 with She-Hulk and Death. And a lot of times you'll only be playing out one or the other with another card. Sometimes you will be playing Shang or something else if they have a big card that you need to kill in order to win one of those lanes. But yeah, this deck is absolutely a monster, and we're going to show you how to play it basically to take over the metagame. Hopefully, I think Arrow needs to be slightly addressed. So this deck, I don't know how long it'll be very good. I also hope that Wave gets slightly addressed, how it interacts with She-Hulk and Death, because I think that this interaction is super strong, and we'll have to see what happens in the future. But check out those games. Make sure, if you guys aren't subscribed to the channel, I know a lot of you guys watch but haven't subscribed yet. Definitely subscribe. Tell me what you think of the current metagame. What do you think of Death Arrow in the comments? Enjoy these games. So here in the first game, let's go over the deck a little bit. We have Squirrel Girl in this deck with Iceman. A lot of times people will replace one or the other with a Hood. I'm trying this deck out without those cards, without Hood. Hood, it always seemed slightly awkward in this list, because you're trying to Killmonger a lot of times on turn 3 or 4. And on turn 5, you want to just be playing Arrow. So there wasn't like a lot of times you could get the Hood. You'd have to play Killmonger on turn 4 with the Hood Demon right after that. So there's always that kind of back and forth there. We can play Deathlock this turn, I think. And then we can play Yondu and Killmonger. We want to get the Mir Island bonus onto our Winter Soldier as fast as possible. So the whole point behind this deck, like I had said, is playing Wave into She-Hulk and or Death and Arrow or Shang-Chi on the final turn. So this is a little bit tough of a turn because I could Carnage, get some Carnage value, but I want to kill a Squirrel since they all got buffed up. I think I'm going to snap him here because we're about to do a big play with Killmonger. And then that'll give us a huge advantage. We still have Wave as well for the turn 5. And we'll probably top deck She-Hulk or Death before then. Or maybe even Sean, because he just played Shuri. So it's a little bit worrying when they have Shuri on turn 4. No magic. It looks like a Mr. Negative deck if they're running Magic, Shuri, and Ironheart. So down comes the Wave. We don't have to worry about getting Magic this turn, because Magic could counter this deck. We do have She-Hulk, so we play She-Hulk and another card. If we draw Death, we can play all 3 of these cards, now that Carnage really matters. Even better, we got Sean. That should just be a free win. We get She-Hulk on the right, Sean killing the middle. So even if he Taskmasters, it's still over. If he Arnhems, he'll Arnhem and Ironheart, it doesn't matter. Yep. Too easy. Yeah, so that's the strength of this deck. He can only play 1 card. Even if his plan was probably to Arnhem the whole time, he's going to take the 50-50 to get the Panther. That's why Shang-Chi in this deck is just very important. Okay, so Shuri's Lab is really good with this deck, because you have a couple big cards and you also run Shang-Chi. So having Shang-Chi ready for the Shuri's Lab, and also having your She-Hulk and Death ready to put on there, usually will give you the win. You can usually snap pretty early with this deck once you draw some of your key pieces. If you're able to know that you have like a Squirrel Girl Killmonger play with Wave and Death, like that's usually a snap. Like even right here, we have Wave already. We have Killmonger already. I think I am going to play Carnage out. Even though we haven't drawn Bucky or anything yet. Usually I want to save Carnage for Bucky. But I think with our current hand. So now we have a question, turn 3. Do we want to play out a tempo card of Killmonger? We're going to save Wave, obviously. But we could tempo out Killmonger, but these locations aren't too good for tempoing. Throne Room and Shuri's Lab, not good for tempo Killmonger. We'd have to play into the Hellfire Club. Or we could pass, hope to draw like a Squirrel Girl. I think I'm going to pass. Because if we draw anything, we pretty much only could get a benefit from drawing Yondu or Squirrel Girl. Bucky or Deathlock wouldn't really change our play. Huh. Cerebro. We don't know what type of Cerebro. Probably Cerebro 2. It's the most common Cerebro. Playing on the ladder. Which these locations are really bad for them. They can't play in the Throne Room if we ever play in the Throne Room. Because they'll ruin the other 2 locations. I think I want to play She-Hulk over here. This might just be an arrow into the Throne Room last turn play. Looks like he's giving up on Shuri's Lab. As you would kind of expect. Because he can't play there with any of his real cards. So now we have only destroyed 1 card. So playing out Wave doesn't really do anything for us. So I think we just want to tempo out some cards to then play into the Throne Room, maybe? We'll see. He has to win mid. We can't play Death, actually, without playing Wave is one problem. Okay, so Magic, it makes it Cerebro 3. I was not expecting Cerebro 3. Cerebro 3 makes this a little bit awkward. Because they run Valkyrie a lot of the times. So since we can Wave now, since we know it's Cerebro 3, we can Wave and Squirrel Girl. I don't know if I want a Squirrel Girl mid, though, is a thing. I guess we can. We just do this into Arrow and hopefully Death on the last turn. Unfortunately, he might be able to fill up the lanes, but this does make it so he can only play 1 card on the final turn. So he can't fill up the lanes. He will probably leave the game, actually. I assume he will leave. Waving this deck really puts him at a huge disadvantage. I don't think there's any chance they stay. But yeah, so our final turn, this is like Wave is just crushes so many decks that are trying to do some fancy stuff on the final turns. Arrow also just completely ruins people's plans. Valk there would not have even done anything. Right? We would have been at, I guess it would have been 14 to 12. Victory. So I guess they would have won the left had we not arrowed them over. But yeah, Arrow, just a completely busted card. Gonna shut down a lot of people's plays. So one of the major bonuses of this deck is that when you play out Wave on turn 5, you are pretty much guaranteeing your opponent can only play 1 card unless they're also running She-Hulk or Death. Which means that you can arrow their card to the lane that you want to a lot of times without worrying about them filling up the lane, since they can only play the 1 card out. The only cases where that's not true is if they're playing a card that generates multiple minions and you don't have priority. So if they play something like Doctor Doom, it can throw minions on the side. Not that arrowing Dr. Doom would do anything a lot of times. But you could arrow it away from like a Camartage or something like that, if you have priority. So here we have two. You need at least 2 things killed on death for it to be discounted. Now this deck looks like we could be facing a Galactus deck. Which means that they want a Galactus here on turn 5. We do have 1 power there, which is fine. It's not enough for Galactus to... Okay, Deathlock is interesting. It might not be a Galactus deck, but...
Clear for takeoff.
I think I want to skip this turn. If he does Galactus, our death will be free. We'll have a Sean to kill any sort of null or anything like that. We want to give up priority. We can only play here, so anything we play here, and if they have Galactus, we will take over priority and not be able to play our Sean. So I think we just full skip here. And now we can play our Shang-Chi and our Death and our Iceman. Or we can play Carnage, Shang-Chi, and Death, which is a little bit better than Iceman. It turns our Squirrel Girl into 1 more power. And then we should win. There's Death, which will die to Sean. There's Doc Ock, which will die to Sean. And there's Wolverine. So, free win against Galactus. You just have to recognize the signs of Galactus. You have to not take over priority if you have this for the Shang-Chi. Pretty easy Galactus victory. The other way to do it, if this was an Avengers compound, on turn 5 all cards must be played here, we would have just played Arrow on turn 5 to pull their Galactus away. But since it was Avengers compound, we had to play a little bit differently. And here's our final game of the YouTube video. I appreciate all you guys for watching this all the way to the final game. Again, you know, if you made it this far, you might as well subscribe. They turn 1 snapped us. Yeah, I think this deck is super broken right now with the current metagame. Like, even a lot of people are saying that Leech will counter this deck. I still beat Leeches with this deck, like, because you can get a decent amount of power, and then if you play Wave on turn 5, you can still play 1 card, and they can only play 1 card if they Leech. And Leech is just such a low tempo play. It's technically the same tempo as our Wave that we'd be playing on the same turn. But we're able to play out a Death on the last turn still with the Wave. So it really depends on their opponent, but... yeah, I think we want to Killmonger this turn. It only kills 4 cards. Or 3 cards, sorry. Which is a little bit unfortunate. Alright, so they're Mr. Negative deck. That's why they snapped us turn 1. Alright, so we can kill off this Iceman with our dude over here. Hopefully draw into Wave. And then hopefully draw into Death is ideal. Might not happen, but at least we do have an Arrow turn. We're only playing out 4 or 3 energy this turn, so She-Hulk will be playable next turn if we want to. Wong Shuri is okay because we do have Sean. But if we do play Sean, we won't be able to play anything else because we haven't played. We'll be able to play Yondu only. So I think we do play the She-Hulk over here. Oh no. They skipped. They're geniuses. Kind of. Actually not. Because now we just arrow him for the win, right? I was gonna say they're geniuses, but I forgot we had the best card in the game. Because I was gonna Sean, but Arrow is just better here because we've taken over priority. So they have to play more than 4 cards to win, which is possible. They did negative on 3, so they have 4 flip or 3 flip cards because they already planned to flip to Wong. So we'll just have to see how many cards. They have 3 flip cards. They want to play out a big Shuri card though, so having Shuri in this deck makes me think it's a Black Panther version, which is a little bit spooky if they play. Yeah, I'm not sure. They'd have to have a flipped Arnhem, which is possible. But yeah, I think we win every time here. I have seen the combo with the Black Panther Arnhem play on the final turn. We'll have to see. Yeah, we won the game because they played 3 cards out. They all get arrowed over. Best card in the game. They didn't even have Black Panther, so we just saw Iron Man Mystique was their play instead. Iron Man Taskmaster. Okay. Ooh, Ironheart. A little bit spooky, but they can only get 4 power mid. Easy win. Yeah, even with this crazy amount of power plays that people have, Arrow just shuts that down. Wave a lot of times will shut it down as well. Fortunately, we didn't draw Wave, but it did give us the 4 cubes instead. Thanks everyone for watching this video. I'll see you guys next time. Check out this deck. Tell me what you think about this deck. And thanks again.